Hello, everyone, and welcome to Answer the Call. This week's episode, as you can see below, are your thoughts on the Star Citizen Forbes article. I gave my own personal thoughts on the article already this week, and there's a YouTube video that I'll link in the cards. I'm going to do my quick, little thing about it. It was really hard for me to read the article and take the author at his word completely 100% or really give that article lots of credibility because of the way he went about things. It seemed pretty one-sided, which, okay, it was clearly a hit piece as well, and just getting very, very personal for no real reason. But I do think that some of the article absolutely has validity. I think if you've been around this game for a while, as a backer, you've had to undeniably feel that there was some sort of mismanagement with time at some point during the development of Star Citizen, right? So, wildly mismanaged on a galactic scale is a quote from the article. Maybe not to that extent, but to some extent there was, in my opinion as well, some mismanagement, obviously. But what I come to the conclusion of is that the real issue with mismanagement is more mismanagement with the expectations of the backer and the player of what to expect now, as well as any potential new backers, what they expect when they first play the game is a lot different than the actual product that they're playing. And I think that's what causes a lot of animosity with Star Citizen and negativity and all that. But to keep things kind of quick and, to the point, is we're just going to jump right into the calls right away. So I do appreciate all the comments that were on that video. And the reason I'm kind of doing this Answer the Call today is because there were 300 and something, and I just couldn't get through all of them. So it'd be nice to hear from some of you guys and what you actually think about the show, or the article, excuse me. So we have our first caller, Shadow Hunter 255. What's up, Shadow?
Hey, not a lot. How are you, Twig?
I'm doing all right, man. So what'd you think of this article?
Okay, so I have a bit of a different opinion than So everybody was going after the article, saying that they were going after Star Citizen, which they were. Let's face it, he got real personal regarding Sandy and Chris and everything like that, and I agree with a lot of the things that you were saying in your video because I actually watched your video.
Yeah.
But sorry.
No, I was gonna say, and I think a lot of people disagreed with me too, and a lot of their points were really valid, right? Like I didn't do as much research as I would have liked to for that video. I just wanted to make sure I got it out, and that's probably a lesson that I learned there. Is I got pulled apart a little bit, and a lot of the things people said were right.
Yeah, look, the stuff that he's saying, look, Star Citizen's been in development for 7 years, right? Chris Roberts is, 40 years old? He's been in the gaming industry for, 20 plus years or something along those lines?
Sure.
If you go through people's history, you're going to find things, they went all the way back to, back into, ancient sort of territory, and they started getting really personal when they're talking about a game development, so my argument is with him and Sandy and his ex-wife and everything like that. Who cares?
Who gives a shit? Exactly. Why is that relevant to this?
Yeah, it seemed like it was, like you've said, it was a hit piece. But my belief about why they've done this isn't because they're just trying to knock down Star Citizen. I think they're trying to knock down all of crowdfunding and independent games.
That was I saw that comment a few times, which was really interesting. So people made the comments, you have to look at where this is coming from. This is coming from Forbes, who has some connection to this and that. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. I never really looked at it that way.
Yeah. So this is something that I actually talked about, because everybody talked about the hit piece being a hit piece and everything like that, and I went in a different direction. But Forbes has ties to, for example, they have ties to EA Games, Blizzard Entertainment, and all these sort of, right? Now, let's face it, if Star Citizen doesn't come out, if Star Citizen fails as a crowdfunding, when do you reckon the next crowdfunded game could possibly be ever floated? What, 5, 10, 15, 20 years before people started trusting it again?
Yeah, I mean, that would be galactic mismanagement on a grand scale, as if this project actually folded.
Yeah, like I've actually heard people turn around and say, like, if Star Citizen goes, it takes the whole of crowdfunding with it. It's no longer just Star Citizen, it's the whole independent crowdfunding. And the way I look at it is that, EA Games, and let's face it, it's...
Can I stop you there? Because it wouldn't be crowdfunding as a whole. It would be crowdfunding of a game like a AAA style game, right? Like a little indie game, people would crowdfund that all day because they know a couple guys can make it, you know?
Yeah. So these big AAA game types, independently created. And let's face it, with Gamergate and stuff like that, we've seen the games media stick up for their publishers, friends and stuff like that in the past. To me, this is more about if we can go through and we can discredit Star Citizen, then at the end of the day, we can then go through and take out a lot of the crowdfunding.
Yeah.
And that to me is what it was more about. Like, and you could tell that that's where they were going because they went through and they started talking about Star Citizen, and then they started bringing up all these other crowdfunding things that failed, like the controller and stuff like that.
I agree. That is the one part of the article I agree with wholeheartedly, though. Because crowdfunding is a Wild West. If you look at the terms of service or the terms of use, it's called for Kickstarter, it's literally you can, as the actual developer, you can do whatever the fuck you want as long as you continue to update the backers and try and it's reasonable. What the fuck does reasonable mean? Like at this point, is Star Citizen's development is this reasonable? I don't know. You know what I mean? As someone who was there in 2013, is it reasonable to only have what we have now? I would argue to some extent, no. But to other extent, absolutely yes, because the development shifted. We all kind of agreed that the development was going to shift and we wanted it to shift to be a better game, right? But if that stuff didn't happen, would that be acceptable? Would the state of the game where we are now be acceptable? I think not.
Oh, look, I totally agree that Star Citizen needs to get their butt into gear. It was actually something I watched from someone else who was actually talking about this article. You also got to remember, too, when Star Citizen first started, they only had 5 people. They've slowly built the team up over this 7-year period. So at the end of the day, it's not like they've had 500 employees for all of the 7 years. First year, I think they only had at most was about 50 people. Yeah. So it's sort of slowly incremented over the years to the point where they now have that 500 or whatever people. Look, there are problems with Star Citizen. Would I like to give Chris a kick up the butt and tell him to hurry up and move along and make our game? Sure. But everything in this article that they talked about, we already knew about it, and it just seemed like it was a way of lumping everything together to go through and to attack the crowdfunding model for AAA development games, because they're worried that Star Citizen is going to come out. They're worried that Squadron 42 is going to come out for a beta early next year, possibly full release next year, later next year. We've also just seen Subverse also come through and receive over £2 million in crowdfunding, which is another AAA type game. So there's been a few games lately that have got this sort of independent funding, and it's like, you just had Star Citizen become the biggest crowdfunding game. Subverse raised £2 million, and then all of a sudden Forbes does a hit piece on crowdfunding. It's like, maybe there might be alternative motive when it comes to this article, and that's what I reckon it's about. It's more about knocking down Star Citizen so that this game maybe fails, and then the crowdfunding model for all this sort of stuff will fall apart, and everybody will have to go through and just run through publishers, which obviously benefits Forbes because their mates run EA Games, Blizzard Entertainment, etc., etc.
Yeah, and I never looked at it that way, but here's the thing, is we see what Star Citizen is now. We don't get to see what Squadron 42 is. But if Star Citizen ever releases and is even a quarter of what we hope it is, it's gonna kind of just be way better and way greater of an experience than a lot of the games that EA and some of these bigger companies put out, right? And then that cuts into profits because games get forced out by those companies so they can profit from them, right? Whereas this game, the question that the article makes, and it's another one that I agree with, like I don't agree with that he brings it up, but I've wondered the same thing myself, is how much does Chris pay himself? How much is Sandy paid? And how much is Aaron paid? Because how much money is staying in the family here of the money that we give versus how much money is actually going to the development? And so the argument would be that those companies are putting a lot of the money in their own pockets, putting out shitty games that we're forced to play because there's nothing else. Where this game is trying to do something different, we hope. But we don't actually know.
Yeah.
What if Chris is lining his pockets with our money? He could be. He very well could be. We have no fucking idea. And it's not like it's our place to really ask, but we have no idea.
Well, he did say that he gets paid the same as, was it C-grade developer or whatever?
No, so like executives of companies, where Chris is very, very often done things that makes me think that he thinks that he's Blizzard or EA, right? So is he paying himself $14.9 million?
No, I don't think so.
That's what a Blizzard guy got. I don't think so either, because they don't have that kind of money. But at the same time, should he be paying himself as a C level of a AAA company? Because he's not at a AAA company. They're trying to make a AAA game, but those companies have made multiple AAA games. Therefore, they probably deserve to make a little bit of money. So whatever Chris makes, no matter if it's this amount or that amount, I think some of us, probably me more than anybody, will look and say that's too much.
Well, I've gone through and they said they pay about $30 million a year in wages, right? That was what they claimed.
Yeah.
So if they've got 500 employees, which they actually have more of, it's actually 520 or whatever now, but say 500, that roughly breaks down to $1,153 per week per employee.
So it's $50K a year.
Yeah, it's around 50, 60K a year. So it's not a lot. So, if Chris is getting paid a lot of money, say he's getting paid, just saying, $5 million a year, for example, then that rest of that money from the rest of the developers would be pittance because it all has to balance out.
Yeah.
So I would say, look, I think he's getting paid? Sure. Yeah, we know he's getting paid. But I also think he sort of sits there and realizes that at the end of the day that I can't go taking these really, really big paychecks when we're crowdfunding when the game hasn't been released yet. When Squadron 42 comes out and they're making it rain with money, then at the end of the day, okay, maybe he'll give himself a pay rise or something, then maybe. But I think at the moment, Chris is sort of sitting there thinking, okay, I'm crowdfunding, we're running low on money, we've only had like $15 million or whatever left. I don't think he's going to be paying himself $5 million or whatever it may be to go through.
I certainly hope not. Most people, when they start a business, don't take a paycheck for quite a while, and it's a passion thing. And all I'm saying is I really hope this is a passion thing for Chris. And
look, he's got to pay bills. He's got to pay bills. He's got to pay rent. So he's got to pay car, stuff like that. So I don't care if he makes some money. I don't care if he pays himself some sort of wage. I just hope it's not.
I mean, someone in chat said $1 million a year, like that's acceptable when they made $11 million last year. So you think 10% of the overall crowdfunding is acceptable for one person? I don't know.
Probably not.
That's the whole thing. Like, this is totally off topic, and I honestly should move on to the next caller because we have a few. Do you have anything else you want to add before we go?
Yeah, no, I just say with everything that happened with Subverse and with Star Citizen, I fully expect that CD Projekt Red will probably be targeted as well. I would expect a few hit pieces on that. I know there's already a few people that are trying to dog it in videos and stuff like that. That's another independent one. So look, at the end of the day, we'll see what happens with that. But I would say this is more about them going against crowdfunding than it is about them going against Star Citizen. I think Star Citizen's just the method.
Yeah. That's really a point I didn't think of. So thanks for bringing it up, Shadow.
No worries, man. Enjoy yourself.
All right, man. I'll let you go. Have a good one. Enjoy your weekend. All right. So our next caller, I believe, is a first-time caller, TJWHALE. Welcome, man. How you doing?
Yeah, hi, Mike. I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, awesome.
So, what'd you think?
Is it okay? Is it okay if I talk about my kind of general feeling about the game first, and then kind of tie it into the article
Absolutely.
after that? Is that okay? So, like, I really like the vision of Star Citizen. I think it's really cool. I played Eve for years, and the idea, and they tried to sort of get people out their ships and get them walking around, and it failed. And just, it's so cool to be able to run around on a planet and shoot stuff and get in your spaceship and fly away and fly to another planet. Like, that just really works. And the fact that that's in the game now is really cool, and I love it. And I really like kind of things like the plant-based gameplay they talked about, the sciencey stuff, and the idea of sort of tinkering with your ship in your hangar, like all that stuff they sort of originally sold us in kind of concepts and ideas. I found really intriguing.
Me too.
I think what I'm worried about, the two main concerns I have about the game and its progress are, firstly, I don't think there's been a sufficiently strong focus on gameplay. I really think that, like, I would have imagined by this point they'd have like Star Marine and Arena Commander like as their test beds for gameplay, and they'd have really nailed down like first-person combat that's as good as any other game out there, and like, you know, really good flight mechanics. And I think they really haven't done that. And there's a lot of other gameplay missing. They did mining, but apparently now it's broken, and they haven't done salvaging, and they haven't done medical. And there's just so much sort of backlog of gameplay, which I don't like. I like gameplay. That's why I play games.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing I feel about Star Citizen is that the scope is just way too big. It feels to me like Chris is it's like doing a painting, and he's asked for like hundreds of brush strokes every square inch. He wants ultimate detail, but he also wants it on a canvas that's sort of 100 feet by 100 feet. So, you know, he wants the ice cube in the whiskey glass to have its own physics simulation and really drill down to the incredible details like that. And he wants 100 star systems with all these hero landing zones and just, you know, 150 ships or whatever, like that on the bigger scale with, you know, an MMO style number of players. So when it comes to the article, like, I feel like I kind of 40% agree with it, in the sense that, like, I don't like the fact that it feels like a hit piece, and I don't like how it was relentlessly negative, and I don't like the kind of personal attacks. And I kind of do agree that the project is being mismanaged, I think. But I think it's quite an innocent type of mismanagement that, you know, Chris is kind of like a kid who ate like 10 candy bars and now feels sick afterwards. Like, he really wants to make his dream game, and he really wants to do this amazing 100 foot by 100 foot painting that's just going to blow the whole world away. And the problem is, you know, he's done 5 foot by 5 foot of it, and we're, you know, because they haven't even finished the foundational tech yet. They haven't finished server-side OCS. You know, they haven't done server meshing. They haven't done persistence. Like, it's not like he's saying, oh yeah, we're 7 years in and all the foundations are laid and now we're just building content. It's, you know, we need to wait several more years maybe just to get these foundational bits of technology in, and then they can really start sort of building out the actual game. And I think, to me, that is mismanagement because of the amount of resources that have gone into it and been spent. And as you say, there isn't a huge amount to show for it.
I mean, the main, most mind-blowing thing is that we had Arena Commander for, what, a year and a half, 2 years, and we were doing the flight model now? Wasn't that what all that time was for? You know, so, like, you know, there's no denying that there was mismanagement of time somewhere. Mismanagement of resources at some point. Like, the article, like, the overarching, like, you know, 1,000-foot view of the article is, yeah, it's been fucking mismanaged, dude. But at this point, it seems like that, like, if I ever had a chance to interview Chris and I had full reign, I can ask him whatever I want. I would say, you know, going back, you have some history, you know, with the whole Digital Anvil thing and how, you know, that game got finished by someone else. And it seems like Star Citizen is what you wanted Freelancer to be. But have you learned any lessons along the way about, you know, making a game at this scale, right? And if he, as long as he's learned some lessons, and I do feel like with the quarterly releases and the no, like somebody just said in chat, the no more outsourcing and kind of keeping most things in-house to be managed properly by him, like, which is a big thing about the article, is he's a hoverer a little bit. It's you know, like, how does that benefit things? I would kind of ask that question of him. Have you learned your lessons? Because obviously there were issues early on, and there's no denying it. And I would hope he would lay out some of the issues of mistakes that they made early on. Because I think if they said that they made no mistakes and everything that they did was calculated, and this is if they had a chance to do it again, this is exactly how they do it, then you know that this whole thing's a load of bullshit. You know, is what I would argue.
It does feel like no one would deliberately go down this road. No one would sort of deliberately do it this way if they had full control, as you say.
Yeah, like I don't think if he could go back in time, would he do it exactly like this, or would he do it differently? And of course, and it's so easy to sit here and say that, but I wonder what he would do differently, where he thought mistakes were made, because I think there were some. I don't think we would ever get Star Citizen without crowdfunding, without a persistent universe, without them focusing on it being somewhat playable, without the wild speculation at times early in its development of what we can do and what we will be able to play. We wouldn't be here now. So it's like, yeah, it's interesting, you know?
I agree with that. I think it's a profound point about it's the size and scope of the dream that drew people in such an intense way to give all this money.
Yeah.
And it's the size and scope of the dream that makes it really hard to actually build the game out and finish it. So there's a kind of paradox there of like, if he pitched something smaller, actually he probably wouldn't have got as much funding and the game might have been a bit disappointing. Because I mean, what I said right at the beginning is I love the vision, but is that part of the problem that the vision's so big that it becomes unfinishable?
100%. And the argument is, well, we'll always be working on the game, and it's like, okay, and that's why, like, when I made my video, it was, you know, the one part that I talked about when the guy, my favorite part of this fucking article was the only backer they interview is I don't know what else to call the guy, but he seems like kind of an idiot. Is the guy who spends $4,500, has issues. Health issues, tries to get the money back. You know, I'm assuming he just came across, you know, the Star Citizen refunds Reddit or whatever, says, whoa, all these people are getting their money back, guess I'll try and get mine. You know, fuck, I have, you know, quite a number of thousands in the game. Most of it was just to do giveaways to grow my Twitch channel. But, you know, there's no denying that during that time when they were refunding pretty often, that I would have, you know, that's money I could have paid my fucking house off with, so, you know, a good portion of it. You know, so I'm sure we all thought about it. So maybe this guy's not that big of an idiot, tries to go after his $4,500, doesn't get it, but then continues to buy ships after. It's like, come on, dude.
That was what made me laugh. It's like, why is he still doing it? You know,
it's because I don't think he really needed the money. Court, right? I don't think he really needed the money. He wanted the money. You know what I mean? And there's a difference. Yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, that's really all I had with him. I didn't want to, like, bash that guy too much, but, yeah.
And some people do have impulse control issues, so, you know, there is that,
absolutely.
But I agree with you.
I work in a casino. They're everywhere, man. They're everywhere, just pulling out money left and right, like, and then walking up to somebody and like, I saw it just last night. Two guys became friendly on the poker table over the last, like, week or so. Guy walks up to him and is like, do you have any money in your pocket? And the guy's like, what do you mean? Do you have any money in your pocket? Like, that's the only thing that he says to him. And he's like, no, all my money is on the table. He has money in his pocket, but he lied to him and said, all my money is on the table. And the guy just goes, okay, and then walks away. Like, he was just trying to get some more money so he can gamble. Like, you know, like, and I've seen, like, over my career in the casino, like, thousands of people like that. There's no denying that the way that CIG funds their game feeds to that compulsion. And that's, you know, nobody's going after casinos and trying to shut them down necessarily. It's just part of what it is. And somebody asked in chat, are casinos evil? No, it's just capitalism. Is capitalism evil? That's the question I would have to ask for you. And some people feel it is, and some people feel it's not. I don't know. You know?
I know what you mean, and I think there's an analogy there with kind of alcohol, for example, that some people get into a big trouble with it and some people have a really good time and it's fine and it's not a problem. And it's a bit the same with Star Citizen. Like, I really like following Star Citizen development because I love the drama and I love all the chaos and I quite like the studio updates and like to see what they're working on. And I feel in some sense I've got my Kickstarter money's worth out of the game just by kind of following along. And so if the game, you know, if they closed it all down tomorrow and said, okay, that's the end of it, I wouldn't actually feel that aggrieved. I'd feel like, okay, well, this has been kind of cool, kind of a cool process. But it's sort sort of like, is that enough for everyone else? Is that enough people who spent $20,000 on the game? This kind of thing.
So someone's coming at me a little bit in chat. He goes, did you literally just call pledging gambling? And he says, you don't get the rush of something or not. So yes, gambling is like, a lot of gambling is what's addicting about gambling is the rush. But what gambling is in a more macro view is you put up a certain amount of money with hopes to be delivered more money back, like a return on your investment, quote unquote. You hope to get a return on your investment. I mean, the difference with gambling is in a casino is, in most cases other than poker, is that investment is rigged in your favor. Not in your favor, it's in the casino's favor. Where pledging to a Kickstarter is you put money up and there is a percentage chance that you do not get that money back, right? So there are comparisons that you can make to gambling with crowdfunding. There's no denying that I put my money up. I have not been delivered what I would have hoped to get with my money, right? Now, like you said, TJWHALE, is I wouldn't be upset if I lost it, though, because first off, I only spent money that I was comfortable losing, and the fact that I gained all these friends, I gained a content creation, I would guess call quote unquote career, like a little fun content creation hobby, because I really don't make any money off of this. A content creation hobby, and a lot of friends and people that I would call more than just friends, like some people that I would call like close great family almost type friends out of it. So that was worth my investment. Have I gotten the game that I wanted? No, not at all. Am I even gonna get the game that I want? I like you said, I love his vision. Is his vision gonna come into my hands one day? That's debatable. Still. So I don't know. Is there anything else you want to add before I let you go?
There was one other thing I wanted to say, actually, about how much Chris Roberts is being rewarded for working on the game. Sure. One issue is his salary that he gets paid, each year or each month or whatever. But the other is when they sold the shares to I think it's the Calders or the Caldwells, they got 10% of the company for 46 million. So that values the company at 460 million in total. And according to an article I found on VentureBeat, Chris owns 75% of it. Mm-hmm. So that means his share of the company is worth $370 million. And I do think it's interesting that if you gave $20,000 to Tesla, for example, you would do that by buying Tesla stock. And then a few years later, your stock might be worth more money. And I think it's interesting that if this game is a big success and, Squadron 42 sells well and the PU comes out and it all works really well,
you get to spend more money on
$500 million. And one thing I wonder about is how would the world be different if the crowdfunding had been for stock rather than just for putting money into the game and getting ships in exchange? Like if you'd invested as an investor, that 372 million would belong to the fans, to the crowdfunders, and not to Chris. And so I think that's quite an interesting question about, does Chris deserve all that money, or should it go to the fans, or what's going on? In this path, he's getting all of it.
Well, here's the thing: is if this was actually an investment for stock, then we would have a say in how the game is developed, and the game would suck. We have a say. We have a say, but we have a say up to a certain extent, right? We get to give feedback, but after that, that's it. If this is actually like an investment thing, you eventually get to say, no, don't do that, put a game out. And then it becomes, well, you know what we would have? We would have Anthem. Because enough people would be saying, I put this amount of money in, put the fucking game out, Chris. Right? We all want Chris to put the fucking game out. Well, not all of us. A lot of people are patient, I have less patience than most people when it comes to this at this point. I think I've been patient for long enough. I'd like to see more gameplay, not necessarily him put the game out today type of thing, right? But if that was the case, it just wouldn't work, right? It wouldn't work. If the company ever does go to the stock market and has a, what is it called, like an IPO, then that's a different story. But you didn't, like the people who invested $20,000 into this game, and that's, and now you're upset about it. That's your own problem. That's nobody else's. There's been constant caveats and warnings by CIG. Every time you spend money, you are warned. Every time, whether it's $5 or $5,000, you are fucking warned. every time. It's super annoying. I hate having to click it every time I do a giveaway on the channel or whatever, but it's like, I've been warned enough, you know, that once the mistake happens, it's your mistake, not necessarily theirs. I think to some extent they are at fault for creating certain expectations outside of the pledge store. It's the videos that are super smooth, that tell these stories. It's the Chris saying that his game is more functional than everyone else. That part of the article drove me mad. I can't stand that about them, is that they make those comments. And they make it seem like, to someone who's an outsider, for us that are in the game, we see those comments and we giggle. But for those that are outside the game, that's who I'm concerned about, is someone that's never played before, that has watched the video and then maybe videos and then comes across this article and goes, oh, their game's more functional than everyone else's, and then plays it. And they go, what the fuck are they talking about? You know, especially if you play now for the free fly, like what bad timing. Like, this might be some of the worst timing for a free fly I've ever seen. And you know, people are coming in and now it's a disaster. And if they waited a couple weeks, it's probably going to be in a lot better place. So I have my own plans for that discussion.
Okay.
Another day, nice. But yeah. All right, TJ. I'll let you go and bring in the next caller, but I appreciate it. It is your first time calling, right?
It is, yeah. Long time listener, first time caller.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it. It was really nice. People seem to really like your voice in chat, by the way. I don't know if you're watching chat, but they're making a lot of comments.
I can't read and speak at the same time.
I'm getting better.
Yeah, man, it's been really fun. So hopefully I'll call again in the future.
All right, man. Talk to you soon. Bye now.
Yeah, cool. All right. See you later, man.
All right. So our next caller is BELATAR. Let's bring up BELATAR's name here. There it is. Hey, BELATAR. What's up, man? Welcome to Answer the Call.
Hi, Mike.
How you doing?
Well, I guess I'll have to. Oh, I'm great. How are you?
Good. Turn you up.
I guess I'll have to apologize to chat firsthand because the accent game is going to drop a little now. Here comes Fritz.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Dance game Germans.
What can you do? I think there's actually not a lot to add because everything has been said here. I think you did a really good job in that video.
Thanks.
And also now with the previous callers, a lot of good points and new points have been made. Maybe what I would like to stress a little is that this article is really a missed opportunity, sadly.
Yeah.
Because there was the potential of a very interesting article in that Forbes, as a kind of respected finance and business publication who know their way around business, takes a look from their point of view at Star Citizen. So not gameplay, not community-driven, but actually cool-headed business people taking a look at what is happening. And that almost immediately goes out of the window with the way this article is structured. And I think we've actually talked enough about this being a hit piece because it has a lack of quotes, it has a lack of examples, it has a lack of details. So claims are made, but not underpinned with facts and all that. And all that devalues a piece so greatly that you actually can even with those details and interesting points that are being made, that you can almost just entirely dismiss it, which is a shame, because if they had left out the personal attacks and just concentrated on the business side, it would have been really interesting.
If they actually talked to a game developer that didn't work on like phone games, then that'd be the case too, right? Like, okay, yeah. And like they also like say that he's a teacher at a like, you know, Carnegie Mellon's a really good university, but it just didn't seem like a good person to choose. And I was gonna make this comment in my YouTube video originally just for fun, but I thought it would have been rude. It's those that can't do teach, right? So it seems like he's mostly teaching and not doing anymore. And that's the whole thing. Yes, is this normal? Is this how every game is made? Of course not. But is this how a game of this scale has to be made? Maybe. Right? And that's what I would have liked to hear from them. Not, this is not how things are done. Well, don't tell me how things are done. Tell me how you would do this. Tell me how you would do this differently if you were a game developer. Like, that, I also agree, another missed opportunity of the article, right? Where it's like, who is this guy? Why would you choose him? And what did he actually provide to the article other than saying, whoa, it's crazy. Oh my God, no shit, it's fucking crazy. We all know it's crazy. Chris knows it's crazy. The whole point of it and why we gave so much money is because it's crazy.
That part actually felt a little desperate to put up some kind of alibi for being professional or knowledgeable. So you Google some kind of person that is teaching game design at a university and then asking something, but it didn't feel like they actually had done in-depth research, then put together what they had, and it had actually the substance to go into this article. So it felt like
I don't want to take away from the guy's skills. I'm sure he is a very good game developer, right? I just don't think they didn't really ask the right question of him. What would you do differently? Yeah. I would love to hear what he has to say about that. And you know what? He'd probably have some really fucking valid points. As most game developers probably would, right?
Yeah. So and another interesting aspect might be, I think the first caller guessed that this could be not only journalistically motivated, but Forbes having a conflict of interest. And I wouldn't quite agree. Of course, that's all speculation. That is all conspiracy theories. But it's also kind of interesting because to me, the attacks that were being made felt pretty personal. That this was not something business related. If some person, let's call him Damien Dumb, would ghostwrite an article, this Forbes piece would be it. This is how this felt like. It doesn't really matter, but it all adds up to this feeling that this was somebody going after a personal vendetta than this being journalism.
Yeah, like, trying to imply that Sandy is just like some crazy woman is like really like, how many businessmen that are probably reading that article have a crazy wife? There's probably, but what does that have to do with anything? Whether she's crazy or not doesn't take away from the fact that she spearheaded the crowdfunding campaign that made Star Citizen. If her craziness is what did it, then good on her. I don't know if she's crazy or not. My interactions with her have been short and pretty simple, but I just don't get what that has to do with anything. Like, literally nothing.
It's irrelevant. Yep. So to me, the main takeaway from this would be, and you just mentioned that before with TJWHALE. The one thing to immunize the project more from these kinds of articles is to not overhype but undersell the game and sell it. You made that point already, because it is not yet a playable game. It has tons of features that maybe no other game has, but they are not yet stitched together into
they're not symbiotic yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what they would need to do is actually so incredibly simple. They wouldn't just like Chris did on RTV with Jared, or Luke and Brian just did in interviews, just put the same vibe into the publications and into the interviews you put out. Just tell it like it is. It is buggy, it is unfinished, it might not come to pass. Just undersell a little so that people, when they actually see and experience what is already there, are positively surprised, and not negatively because they got some polished marketing content that the game cannot already live up to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically it for me to take away from it.
Okay. Well, thanks, BELATAR. And I agree, man. I agree. And just to like quickly go back at Sandy before, and I'll let you go here. To quickly go back with the whole Sandy comments is, do you think that they went at Sandy a little bit because a lot of the things that they went at Chris about could be also construed as positives? So the things that they considered negatives are also sort of positives. He's a micromanager. He likes to, have everything going on in the project. He's a dreamer. He constantly is trying to make the game bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Where, yes, that's not a good thing, but that's also not necessarily a bad thing either. So then they find Sandy, who is she is trying to make it as an actress in Hollywood, and she has some past that, I was never aware of before. And everyone's going after the wife instead of the guy who's actually working on the game part of the game, just to discredit it. It's really, really weird to go after Sandy when Sandy has no relevance necessarily on how the game is played. I think in the next video you'll see on this YouTube channel, I'll take some issue with marketing again, which I've taken with CIG plenty of times, in regards to the free flight. That's my next planned video. I don't know when it'll get done or not. But anyway, IDD, welcome to Answer the Call. How you doing?
Hello, doing good. I hope I can make it quick because I know ASN is in the line behind me and I try. I mean, hey, dude, hey, try.
Hey, dude.
So my reaction to the article was pretty emotionless. I mean, I read so many articles like this in the past, and there was just nothing new, nothing relevant to me in it.
Okay.
I knew even before I had backed Star Citizen that Chris had a track record of not being on time and not being on budget. So the points he made about mismanagement, I agree on.
Yeah.
Over the years, I just learned more about why this is happening.
Yeah, because the more I talk to game developers, the more I hear how this is the norm. And then the game developer that they talk to says it's not. So, like, what is it? Did they just take a developer that fits their narrative? And am I only listening to developers that are interested in Star Citizen because it fits theirs? So, like, where's the actual truth here is what I'm curious about, too.
Yeah, that part kind of felt like he was the first available, not the best person available.
Yeah.
And yeah, regarding Chris, I mean, he's a great visionary, but he's not so great at restraining himself. Just look where the project started. It was Wing Commander with a bit of privateer or freelancer. And now look what the scope is today. And maybe, don't want to say it too loud, but maybe what the scope will be tomorrow.
Yeah, but would you argue, and this is one thing that I wish I argued a little bit in the video, is I feel like he may have learned his lessons a little bit and has potentially stepped back a bit more from the hovering over everything thing and allow other people to take control of his vision and make the game, right? He's brought people that he trusts on, like his brother and Tony Zurovec, and these guys are spearheading certain parts of the game, and it's their vision too with it. And I would argue that potentially in the last year to 2 years that they've looked back at mistakes that they made and they're trying not to make them anymore. And I feel that that's a good thing. When
I kind of,
they're looking back at years ago and saying, look at all these stupid mistakes he made, and even, early on in Star Citizen's development, look at all these dumb mistakes. But if you look at what we've been getting in the last year, it's hard to argue that they're with the direction that they're taking it now. Like, it all makes sense now. It didn't make sense a while ago, though,
Yeah, I kind of get what you're saying. Not sure I totally agree on, because they aren't his superiors. So there's still nobody supervising Chris and what he brings to the game, or rather adds to the game.
But what if they
Like,
are more
everything
his,
stops at him.
not his superiors, but they're more people that he respects, so they're more on an even plane than not that he doesn't respect Luke, but you know, someone who comes to chat often, Luke Presley, maybe isn't on the level of, you know, where Chris has worked with him, his peer, where I don't know if he would maybe consider someone where Luke is his peer, but guys that he's worked with his entire life, like Tony and you know, even some people that I know that work in the Austin office, that they all were kind of part of the same old boys club in Austin all these years ago. Maybe he considers those people as peers, and if some of them say, "Hey, Chris, chill out," he actually listens.
I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe they have a better way of getting to him and reason with him. But
Specifically his brother, that's what he's there for, right? Like, he straight up says it, "I'm here to keep him in line."
Well, if he succeeds, I mean, I believe it when I see it. It
Yeah.
could be true, but we'll see.
Yeah, I agree. It's everything about Star Citizen is a we'll see. You know, we'll see what 3.6 is like. We'll see what
Yeah.
you know, the next star system is like all these years from now. We'll see. You know, but as long as it keeps pushing forward and we end up somewhere, then hey, that's nice. I just
Yep,
the
that's true.
expectations are the issue for me. But anything else you want to add before I go?
Yeah. You also have things in the article that kind of hint to something, but actually going nowhere.
Yeah.
Like the private stuff about Chris and Sandy. I admit I'm an asshole. Even though it's their private life, for me, if it affects Star Citizen's development, I want to know about it.
Okay.
And there was this tax evasion thing, but unless Chris knew what the German fund manager was doing,
you had to make a lot of assumptions there for that to be like super valid to the thing. And like,
I just can't take anything out of that.
What wealthy people don't try to avoid taxes?
Yeah,
I don't know any wealthy person or any person, like, to be honest, any wealthy person. I'd never met one that is not trying to avoid paying all taxes altogether. Like, if you can avoid doing it, wouldn't you try? I don't get it. You know?
Yeah, probably.
Like, why are we shitting on him for that? You know? That's why that's why I pay my tax accountant X amount of dollars, and this year I didn't have to pay as much in taxes as I did when I did it by myself. You know? So why are we considering that like a negative necessarily? Same thing with like people make and I definitely don't want to make this political, but people make the same comments about Donald Trump. Like, is it bad that he tried to avoid paying his taxes? Like, we all do. But they make it this big deal, you know? Like, we're all trying to avoid paying taxes, guys. Like, come on. Nobody wants to, but we do.
Right. And also the part about Sandy's private life and her attack and the restraining order. For me, unless it leads to like a bad work environment because of her behavior in the office, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like for me, that stuff, unless it has something to do with the development itself, it is meaningless to me.
Yeah.
And
people are making comments in the chat, so let me just like clear this up. I pay my taxes. I think you should pay your taxes, but everybody definitely tries to avoid paying as much in taxes every year as possible. That's why you go to certain places and take deductions and do things, you know, that are within reason. So I could tell you that I taught, like, just super off topic. My tax accountant is very aggressive, the guy who I used, and I was like, I'm not comfortable doing any of that stuff. So can I just, like, you know, do the normal things. And he was like, okay, you just tell me what you're comfortable with. And I was like, all right, well, I'm not comfortable with anything you just said. So that's definitely happened. And yeah, I mean, he's like guy with a New York accent, like, like totally like, I was like, oh man, this guy's scaring me. So, but no, I didn't do anything crazy. I just took my normal like deductions and that's it. I didn't do anything actually this year at all. Call the IRS, guys. Dodge taxes, 100%. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just don't think any of that stuff is relevant. Yeah.
And also for me, the article is lacking crucial perspective on things. In my opinion, you can't bring up Star Citizen's development time and funding without bringing it into perspective where the company started. And that's the theme with many things the writer brought up.
Yeah.
A lot of valid points, many of them discussed worthy, but out of perspective, or we're missing crucial context. So that makes me think it was just another mediocre research article, or it had an agenda. It was all over the place. So maybe Shadowhunter was onto something.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely an interesting thought he had.
Yeah, absolutely. I never looked at it that way. A few people made that comment, and I was kind of like, But then when he said it, it really sunk in, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. Is there anything you want to add before we go to ASN?
Yeah, one last thing.
Go for
Stop pushing, dude.
I'm not pushing. I'm just.
One last
I don't
thing.
know. I don't know how to transition.
No, I meant ASN.
Oh, he's pushing behind you. Yeah, he's trying to get in.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
One last thing that just came to my mind is the payment question. How much should Chris pay himself? And I like what you hinted at, that he shouldn't pay himself at all. I mean, he himself brought up that he made enough money in the past. So just as an
So why
example,
are you paying yourself now? Yeah.
Yeah, just as an example, when James Cameron worked on Titanic and it started to go over budget, he went to the studio heads and he said, "Don't pay me anything." I mean, rest is history. Made $1 billion worldwide, and he got his share after. Or even George Lucas, same shit. Just give me the marketing rights. Worked out pretty well for him, right?
Yep.
All because they were convinced of it being a success and they put their hearts into it.
Yeah. And I don't disagree. Like that. Like that's the thing that I go in and I. It's really hard because we're not really investors, but we are. And it's like I always come across the do we have a say in things like this? You know, we're allowed to give our feedback for the game. Are we allowed to give our feedback for this? Part of me says absolutely 100% yes, and part of me says it's not our place. But in this case, it's really hard for me to not say that. Like, you know, I'm dating and you know, for sure gonna marry this girl one day, and she's working on her own business, and she's not making any money. She's not taking any money right now, but she's building her business. And Chris has been building a business all these years. I get it if you're going to pay Sandy and Aaron because they're there working. But yourself, I wonder what his salary is. Because what I would wonder is if we took his salary out, how many devs could we hire that can work on the major issues that we have right now? You know, that's my concerns with Chris's salary, not how much he makes or how much is he hoarding from us or whatever. It's more what are we missing out on by if it's all true and he has plenty of money, you know, why not hire some more devs with that money? You know, and I don't know. It's really hard because people are making some valid points in the Twitch chat too. Doesn't he do some coding? You should get paid what you're worth. All sorts of things. I totally agree. You know, so it's really hard for me to sit here and say he shouldn't pay himself anything. Because part of me thinks that, and part of me thinks not. You know, he's built this thing up to this point where maybe he should deserve to pay himself a little bit.
For me, it would be the ultimate commitment.
Me too. I agree. Like what you're saying, I couldn't agree with more. Is that's the commitment when you make the comparisons to groundbreaking things like Star Wars, like the Titanic movie. those guys didn't take a paycheck because they believed in what they were making. And I'm not saying, Chris, forfeit your salary now, but it would absolutely make a statement if he did.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? And if he ever did do that, he better make it a statement, because then it would really mean something. If things ever started to get a little tight, that would really show something to the gaming world, I think.
I agree.
So, yeah, all right, man. I'll let you go. ASN is he's really trying to get in here, man. He's pushing. He's knocking on the door.
Take it away, ASN. Take it.
I just kicked him out for you, ASN. What's up? ASN. He's muted.
Hello.
There he is.
Hello.
Okay. Hello. I hear
I
you.
didn't want to put pressure on IDD. Yeah. So yeah, my thoughts about the article. Oh man, I think it was very cheap, honestly.
Yeah.
Especially some parts. So the personal stuff, I have to start there because it's good to separate your personal life from work. It doesn't matter whatever you do, and I often see this in game development because there's so much passion around this subject about games and everything. You see the backlash on 76. You see everything that goes bad. The backlash is crazy and justified, but there are some of these overreaching things to personal lives of developers that I
ridiculous.
Don't find okay.
Yeah.
Yes, that is not okay. And the article clearly stated an incident from 2007. That was 12 years ago. Think about it this way. Somebody would say that you did something wrong 12 years ago and just leave it at that. That would mean that your image...
When I was 22 years old, I was drinking lots of beer and throwing darts at a wall without a dartboard on it. And
yeah,
skipping class and playing Madden all day.
Yeah, so it's unreasonable to just show that and leave it at there. And if you do want to talk about those issues, then you can do it this way. You can talk about it, right? And then you can talk about what the situation is right now, how that person is performing in the eyes of other employees or in their social circles. If you really want to deep dive on how this, person is right now and how they were and how everything changed, then you can do that. But if you just take one bad piece of a person and that has nothing to do with the overarching game development, and then just put that in there, you're just smearing. That's honestly smearing. There's nothing else about it. On the other parts, yes, the points, some of the points, obviously, that I think a lot of the community agrees is mismanagement, project issues, scope. Yeah, true. I mean, I talked about this before as well, so there's nothing to be argued there. But I think the article still misses its own point. If the point is mismanagement, then go do a deep dive on why and how, and how it is right now, right? So what were the fixes that were being done by the company and by the management, and how efficient they were or they weren't. Just give us an updated picture. Don't just throw it out there. Talk about something that was way worse 4 years ago and then just leave it. It again shows that there's a certain point in trying to create an image here. But it's not that the community disagrees, and I think a lot of the community does agree that this is nothing like what was been pitched back in 2012. We're all on. I think everyone in the world is on board with that. I don't think you can find anybody that's saying, oh yeah, it's exactly like the Kickstarter. No, it isn't. I mean, there are some stuff that is, of course, still there, but
there's some White Knights, man, that are they're lost souls. There are some lost souls when it comes to this game, man. They can do no wrong, and it's there's obviously two sides to the. I mean, Star Citizen's so polarizing, and the one thing is I forget the guy's name. Obsidian Ant made a video on the Forbes article as well, and there's one comment in there, and it's from Scott Manley, and I think Scott Manley's been relatively critical about Star Citizen, which is fine. That's his opinion, and the White Knights come out and are all over him, right? But what ends up happening is any video that you make that's either critical or really praising, or to be honest, any video that I make about Star Citizen, you get this polarizing part of the community that you either get the really like, oh my god, it's the best thing ever, or you get the it is the biggest piece of shit ever, and it's just like it's not fun. It's not fun, but it's like it's way worse with this game than any game.
Yeah, but I think it's way worse due to other reasons. But that's, I think, a human psychological condition that kind of gets reflected on the internet, because like humans generally tend to express very like far-reaching arguments more than neutral arguments. So like if somebody feels passionately for or against something, they're more likely to express it online as well. And online, it's way easier to express it. So you don't even like, because if you're talking with somebody personally, because I talk to Chris, I talk to Sandy, I talk to like a lot of the CIG Ortwin. Like if you talk to them like in person, and if you ask those tough questions, it's much more of a like a two-sided thing. Like you can feel the other person, what they're thinking, and they can understand you. So it's much more real. But when you're online, you're saying, oh, these developers fucking suck, or like, you're fucking wrong, the game is amazing. It's just like, it's not two-way. That's the issue. There's not a two-way interaction. It's just one way. You just throw your shit out there and then just leave. Generally, like some people do tend to stay and discuss. Those are the edge cases. But yeah, the article, I think, was like, again, as somebody said, it missed opportunity for sure. There are a lot of good things that happened with this game. There are a lot of things that went wrong, and at the end of the day, though, everything was like talked about within a reasonable time frame. Like the topics were mentioned, I mean, sometimes late, sometimes in a bad way. The communication was off, but generally, the community know where the game was kind of like going, because there were constant live updates and the game was live throughout most of the development. And besides that, there was like constant shows. So it wasn't like a situation where, the game disappeared for 3 years and came back and it was something else. Like we were all in that process. So that kind of puts a perspective on things, in my opinion, because the core issue that CG did, and this is something that's, and I said this before, I don't know if this was intentional or this is planned, but it kind of was like, okay, we will get this much money to deliver you this product, right? And then once they got there, and I'm like, okay, we'll need this much money to get this done, right? And then they kept, stretching those goalposts, and then after a point, they stopped the goalposts with the stretch goals, but they did other things. So the game did continue expanding.
Yeah.
They just asked the community again,
hey, do you guys want to do this? And we were like, yeah.
Yeah, and like,
and
so
now we're like, no, make the fucking game.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if that's like, that was the strategy from the beginning. I hardly imagine it so, but it kind of shows you that, like, if you do go for a bigger goal, you get more funding.
Yeah.
If you don't go, you'll get less. So like, do you get less funding and finish a base product and then do expansions and second games to increase the size of your studio?
Yeah.
Or do you aim for a larger, more complicated, long-term project, get all the funding and just do it once and do it live and do it like, the way you dreamt it to be? And that kind of like is the difference between Elite and Star Citizen, right? So like the difference between getting a base game out there and then expanding it, or just developing one game, one product for a longer time. And so, you can compare the two, which one is better, which one is not for you. Every game is different, of course, but production-wise, I'm talking.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's an image issue. And the article sadly just sat on top of that. About the salary thing, the average exec's salary is about $300,000. That amounts to about $26,000 per month, which is not little amount of money. You could hire 3 to 4 developers for that. I would think so, per month. But like that's still, I mean, consider 530 developers, not that much of a difference, but still, the point is very well made by the previous callers that a lot of these like people like Elon Musk, they kind of like tend to take really low salaries. Like Elon Musk yearly salary is 37,000, and they tend to invest in the company a lot more to make the stock worth more.
Yeah.
It kind of works in some cases and it doesn't work in others. And I think in Star Citizen case, it can work. And Chris can maybe, do that. But I don't think it will make like that huge. It would just be like, you know, a morale boost for everybody to show that he's in this for the long haul, and
Exactly.
he focuses on. And and I think IDD said that there are no checks on Chris, and I disagree with this. Back in 2015, when I talked to Chris and Aaron personally, and I asked them about the Kotaku articles questions actually in person, which is kind of like, you know, interesting to just go up to a CEO and be like, hey man, like what's up with this, you know, management issue? Like, you know, the article is saying this. What do you think? You know, what are your solutions? And he's there, he's answering you. Like you're just a backer, and he does, and that's the beauty of this game, I think, that you can approach these people and ask them questions, and they wouldn't be like, oh no, that's none of your business, right?
Yeah.
And then he did answer, and he did clearly say that back then, that was 2015, that he wanted to have production under Aaron clearly, that he is in charge of the release cycles going to 2016, 17, 18. And that he will, you know, I mean, he is everywhere in the project, but he will, like, you know, delegate more. He clearly said that in whenever we talked, and he wanted to delegate more, have, you know, more people own the project's parts, which is, you know, which is the stuff you want to hear.
It shows now. You can see that that's happened, and if you don't see it, you're blind.
And Aaron is a clear check, and a lot of people didn't like it, but I think that the small part of investors coming in there with a non-critical share percentage not only legitimized this business more, it also brought an external influence to the board, which is like saying that, hey, we do have a stake in this. You have to listen to what we say, and this is our perspective.
Yeah.
And I know it's not, they don't have power over everything, but still having that having that say, and having that reputation in the board of a billionaire's investment kind of shows you that there's a bit of weight. You don't always have to have the majority to have weight. You just have to be convincing and have a good argument. Yeah. So it is a good thing. So I think the checks are in place. I don't think that's the issue right now. The issue is like going forward, the technical hurdles for the MMO. And the production timeline for the single player, and how that can be managed. And it is a tough one. And the image, it doesn't help, and the Forbes article doesn't help. But at the end of the day, if the product is being developed and if people can see clear, tangible progress, then it's okay. Like the past mistakes can be forgotten. Look at No Man's Sky. Remember how like the launch was? And now we're looking at No Man's Sky right now. People are like playing it, they're enjoying for what it is, and they like all the new content and fixes and whatnot. So
yeah, it's more along the line of what it's more than what I think they had in their original.
Yeah.
Pitch.
And I watched Sean Murray's GDC talk. I was there. I was next to the stage, and you could see he was pretty calm, but it is an emotional journey, like what some of these game developers can go through, because he clearly said that after the release, instead of like blocking everything, he just drank from the fire hose. That was his like term that he used, that he read every negative comment there is, and he said, don't do it. Like it didn't help, because he couldn't like get a statistical data out of it. But then they found a system where they collected all the feedback and turned it into data of what people want and what doesn't work and what does work, and then it was useful.
Yeah. And if you guys are interested in stuff like that, and you have Netflix, I don't know if it's available in every country, but there's a Netflix documentary that came out just recently about For Honor, and it's called Playing Hard. And there's a lot of, I just see the difficulties that they deal with, and you also see how unfinished games usually are before they become finished, unlike where CIG is, and see the difficult, I guess like the differences between the two. If you're a Star Citizen fan, it was kind of eye-opening for me to watch that. That documentary was really cool.
It's a huge process, and Sean Murray at that stage did say that he just couldn't leave it there. Like they didn't want it to be there. They couldn't leave it there, so they kept working, and then as the more they worked, the feedback was more positive, and it just like, kept getting better and better. So it was, you cannot leave your product out there like that, because you spend years on it. It's just like this connection that you have. And the on some of the like other stuff in the article, just one more point about crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is such a thing. It's beautiful on one end, and it's just
It's dangerous.
sad and depressing, and the dangers on the other. And it's up to the consumers. So like, all right, we all live in this free market system, so we are responsible of our choices. Of course, the seller of a product is also responsible of marketing it correctly. But when it comes to crowdfunding, everybody needs to be extra cautious.
Yeah.
Like, who's the developer? Like, what did they work on before? Like, what kind of real indicators can I see before I send my money flying away, right? Like, before it goes poof and disappears.
Would crowdfunding even exist for video games if companies like EA and Ubisoft and bigger companies that have had some pretty big failures in the past due to pushing out games early? Would it even exist? Would Star Citizen even exist if it wasn't for
the practices of these bigger companies? Yeah.
Look at a game like Anthem real quick. Anthem and other games that keep coming, and I think you mentioned 46 or 76 as well, right? Like, those two games are validating Star Citizen.
Yeah.
They're validating Star Citizen.
Yeah.
And probably more than they should. They shouldn't be, but they're validating it,
Yeah, and Bethesda, like one of the respected studios, on one hand, which is pretty sad to see them like do something like that.
Yeah.
And then it's just Anthem, like BioWare, another respectable studio. Like, these studios are the ones that game developers kind of looked up to before.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I do want to have games like Bethesda's games are amazing, so much work, so much like passion, so much success. And now we're just putting cash shops in these big games and releasing it badly, and then just calling it oh yeah, we'll just fix it later. I mean, yeah, sure, of course you can improve your game later, but the launch shouldn't be disastrous, man. Like, it's just since when did disastrous launches just become, oh yeah, it's just another
it's just
big
a launch
release.
Play it in a couple days, it'll be fine. Like, when was that okay? When did that start being okay?
It's insane, and it has to do with the investment and how these projects are financed and how the profit is expected and when it is expected.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to do a lot with the business side. I mean, why would you rush a product if you still do get money and you can work on it longer? There's no incentive to get it out there at that point. The issue is that you're obliged to sell to return profit to investors, or there is another thing that's coming up that you have to work on and you have to leave this or whatever. So generally, creatives don't want to leave products hanging around like that in a bad state unless they are forced to. And I think these projects clearly show that they were forced to. Anthem was forced, because if you read like some of the articles on Anthem, how the early concept and development was, it clearly shows you that there's a lot of passion in there, and there were some really unique game design ideas of these changing dynamic environments, of these unique mission systems, of this open world that completely changed and morphed into a game that looked more akin to a Destiny light. And that even though the gameplay design is fun and everything, that the rest of the game is kind of missing a lot of elements. Like, a lot of people at BioWare broke down and left, and these studios are getting shattered because of these poor decisions, and all these cool creative people that we love the products of are not there anymore in these studios, which is and that's why in some ways what Star Citizen is doing, while it is taking longer, I think at the end of it, it's going to be a 10-year development cycle up to the release of Star Citizen. That's my expectation, like 10-11-year cycle.
Think, easily.
But I think at the end of the day, if the end goal, if the end result makes this all worth it, then it's fine. Yeah. If it doesn't make it worth it, then oh my god.
Yeah, then a lot of people are going to say, I told you so, and we'll deserve what we are told.
Yeah, exactly.
But again, I only put in enough that I was comfortable with, and I hope most people do the same. I mean, what's in the article, they say all you need is the $45 ship, right?
Exactly. All you need is that, and you can test your free fly twice a year until the if you
Exactly.
want to check the game. So it's
But
pretty
all right,
fair.
ASN. I'm
Yeah,
gonna let
thanks
you
for
go.
having me.
Yeah, we'll call it here. So
And a
thank
great
you so much.
video on the article. Great job. That was very balanced video.
Thank
there.
you. I tried to be. Some
Yeah.
people thought I wasn't, but that's that's how it goes.
Yeah,
I
that's
do
how
my
it is.
best.
All
I
right,
did my
take
best.
care.
All right, take care, buddy. All right, guys. So that is it for this week's Answer the Call. I really want to hear your comments below on what you thought about the Forbes article. If you didn't post on the other video, I'm assuming most people did. It has so many comments I couldn't even get through all of them yet, because my work week started the day that I put it out, so I haven't really gotten it. I've really only looked at the really bad ones and commented on those for the most part. The people that were being kind of nasty. But yeah, I really enjoyed making that video. It was nice to do some research and I learned a lot from it. I should probably do a bit more. But yeah, so I'm gonna be putting out another video about this week's Star Citizen refly and how I thought it was really poorly done, and kind of want to hear your feedback on it. So everybody have a wonderful Sunday. I should have a video up for you guys in a few days, most likely, and this video will hopefully be up tonight. So I'll catch you guys on the flip side, everybody. Once again, I don't know if I said this early in the show, there will not be an Answer the Call next week. It's Mother's Day, so the timing of things means I'm going to go spend time with my girlfriend and her mother, because it's Mother's Day. So I hope you all have a wonderful week off as well, and I will catch you guys in 2 weeks, and we'll hopefully have some in-game content maybe to talk about during that time. So, all right, guys, everyone have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye, everybody.